Hey folks, I am finally ready to go big today. I have a 20-inch by 20-inch canvas already. I have my color palette finalized for my fiery solstice painting. So I was going to go through a brief explanation of the colors that I chose for my final palette and why I chose them. If you are the kind of person who likes to jump to the recipe and you don't want to hear the story about grandma's pudding or whatever, just fast forward. I'll probably be talking for about 5 minutes is my guess. All right, for everybody else who is interested in my thought process, here we go. So like I said, I wanted a fiery solstice painting. We are coming up on summer solstice, which is the longest day of the year. And it reminds me of, long days and short nights and warm weather and hanging out by a campfire, and all of the reds and coppers and golds that go with that. So here's where I started. Here's my first test piece. There are lots of things that I really like about this. I like the golds, I like the coppers and the reds, particularly on the corner. The clouding didn't work as well as I wanted, and there was a little bit too much peach and pink around the edges. So I decided to change things up for my second piece. This was my second test piece. There's a lot of things that I really like here. Again, I like the gold, I like the dark red, the clouding worked much better, but I made a mistake, and I knew it was a mistake. I put magenta in there. And you can kind of see it right up in here particularly. It's got a slightly violet hue. If you're looking on the color wheel, the colors that I wanted were like from red over to yellow and everything in between on the color wheel. Magenta is just like a slight detour over on the red past, a little bit towards the violet side. And I never noticed how purple it was until I put it with the crimson. So that was obviously a mistake. Then I remembered this painting that I did a while ago. It's a bloom, and it reminds me of hanging out around a campfire. I love it. It's one of my favorite paintings. It's hanging on the wall in my office so I can stare at it. And the way the light catches it is absolutely sublime when the sunlight comes in and hits it and sends all those shimmery sparkles up. So I looked at the color palette for that. This is the great thing about recording all your paintings, is you can just go back and see what you did. And I used a lot of the same things. So, I decided to go with the color palette of that painting and add in the black, because it's really the darkness in contrast with the light that I think makes it so special. And I'm hoping that that comes out in this cloud pour. So that's what I was thinking about. I was thinking about summer solstice and the longest day and the hot weather to come, and thinking about how we always want to keep that in balance with remembering that we'll turn again toward the darkness. The days will get colder and wetter, and until eventually we're at the winter solstice, and it's the shortest day of the year, longest night of the year. And we'll be burning fires all night long to keep us company through the long dark. So this is like, it's one of those pieces I've been thinking about for a while, and that's what we're going with. So let's go through each of the colors. We're going to start out, I think, with this little piggy ore. And I'm just gonna do a tiny splash right in the bottom because I don't want a lot of it taking over the center. Next up, we have this little piggy cinnamon, which is a beautiful copper color. It dries like a shiny penny. Hold on, let me show you. I have this other piece that I recently did, and that is right there. That shiny copper all through the center there, that is cinnamon. So it might look a little pastel here. It is not going to dry that way. All right, so that's this little piggy cinnamon. Up next is this little piggy grenache. All right, so we're gonna start with a little bit of the ore, then we'll do a little bit of the cinnamon, and then I'm gonna dump all of this grenache in there. Then we have Liquitex Alizarin Crimson. And this one looks a little brighter in the cup than it actually is. When it dries a deep red, a beautiful crimson color, and it is not pink. It is definitely red. So we're putting in that. Then we're going with the Cloud Mix. This is my Vallejo Pearl Medium Cloud Mix. It's 1 part Vallejo Pearl Mix, or excuse me, 1 part Vallejo Pearl Medium, 1 part Artist Loft Soft Body Acrylics in white, and then 2 parts of US Floetrol. And if you're interested in any of my recipes or the colors I use or whatever, it's all listed in the video description. Up next, we have black. So I decided to add black into the painting, and I had a bunch of Artist Loft Flow Acrylic black that was left over to use as like a background. But because I'm actually putting it in the painting and I wanted it to be a little bit thicker, I added some Amsterdam Oxide black to that, and hopefully that works out in my favor. All right, next up is Amsterdam Copper. Then we have Artist Loft Old Gold. My spinner's turning because now the paints are making the weight off center. And then this last one is what I'm going to use to flood the canvas. It is Artist Loft Deep Red. I chose it because it's a deep red color and because it is less expensive. It's been sitting around on my paint shelf for a couple years. I've never used it, and here's the perfect spot for it to flood the canvas and go around the outside, or you probably won't see it. So I am going to move all my paints, and then we're going to layer the cup and get it ready, and then I'll put the canvas out and move you around. So hang on just a second and we'll layer the cup. I know it doesn't look like much changed, but I just moved some stuff around and grabbed my cup. Okay, so this cup holds, if you fill it all the way up to the very tippy tip top, it holds 16 ounces. And I calculated what I needed for my canvas, and it's about 17.5 ounces. So I am going to fill this almost all of the way up, and then I will flood my canvas with the deep red. So let's get going. We are first going to add this little piggy ore. And again, we're not adding a ton of it because I just want a little bit in the center. See, just a splash. Not going overboard with my paints. Okay, next up, oh, we're getting out of order. Let's not do that. Okay, next up is this little piggy cinnamon. Okay. Then we have this little piggy Grenache, and we are going to dump this in. I'm going to use most of it. I'm going to use all of it. Yeah. Go on in there, Grenache. I love you. You're beautiful. Just scraping out the bottom here. Okay. Moving right along. Next up, we are going for Alizarin Crimson. Okay, looking good. We are hanging on to that because we are going to need it again. Next up is Cloud Mix. And we are going to need the rest of that too. Okay, what is up next? Okay, next is black. And man, I am hoping that this black works next to the cloud. Okay, black deployed. Next up is copper. I have it all written down on a paper because I didn't want to mess this up. This is so nerve-wracking, you guys, when you're going big. It uses so much paint. Okay, next up is copper. Excellent copper. Then, what do we have? Okay, copper, then crimson again. Okay, then cloud mix. And we are just going to scrape the rest of that cloud mix in. Oops, missing the cup. Okay, thank you, cloud mix. Okay, then I'm going to go back in with the black. Kind of missing my cup here. Okay, then I wanted, let's see, now we're going to try, should we do copper first and then gold? Or we'll throw some gold in there. I don't know. We haven't done gold yet, so let's do gold. Okay, looking good. Then maybe we'll throw some copper and then red and then black. I don't know, end on black. Okay, copper, crimson, and black. Okay, folks, the cup is filled. Let's get the canvas on the spinner and move you so you can see this, and I'll be right back. Okay, now we're ready to go. Hold your breath with me. Ooh. Okay, I can breathe again. Whew. Let's fix the spiral at the center. Beautiful. Yes. Okay, so what are we gonna do? We are going to let it sit for a few minutes, and I am going to clean up a little bit while this develops. So let me torch it first, and then we can fast forward while it's doing its thing. Okay, so we're gonna start tilting. I'm just kind of opening it up a little bit. So now it's time to start stretching it out. I am going to try and go almost in a circle to keep the shape a little bit better for a little bit longer. So we're just gonna bring it down and around. And then we'll probably stretch out the red a little bit on the edges before we tilt off the corners. Okay, so now we get to see how much paint we have left and how much I move it around before I ruin it. So let's talk about what I like. Now, one of the reasons I was nervous about putting gold in toward the bottom, and I should have checked my layering again because I didn't have gold on my list at all and I added it. But one of the things I wanted to remember was to keep gold away from the black, because when you get gold and black right next to each other, it often looks a little green, and green is not the vibe I wanted. And we've got a little bit of that happening over on this side. I'm not going to point because my hands are covered in paint. But if I could get rid of some of that, I would be much happier with the overall look, because it's kind of only happening down on this bottom corner. So I'm going to try and tilt some of that off and then see what we have left. Yeah, that's looking pretty good to me. Hopefully not too much of the green. It might dry a little darker too. I just really hope it doesn't look green. The rest of it looks pretty good. So we've got like coppers and reds and golds and black. The black did get a little gray next to the cloud, which is something I was hoping wouldn't happen, but I kind of knew likely it would. So that is it. I might stare at this a little bit more. Yeah, but I think I'm pretty happy. So I'll take you in for a close-up as soon as I get some of this extra paint scraped off my hands, because it's pretty goopy down here. I'm pretty covered. So I'm gonna get that cleaned up before I put it in the middle of my painting and make myself angry. All right, thanks for sticking around. Here's a close-up of the wet results.